Is revealed. This is a book of Dawah. It's Kitab of Dawah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions His greatness in Quran Kareem, and mentions Ahkam are also mentioned in Quran Kareem, some instructions, but relatively few ayats are about Ahkam. For example, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions so many times about Salah and how necessary Salat is, and that is the order of Allah ta'ala. But the tafsil of the Salat, or the details of how many rakats should we pray and what time exactly we should pray and how we should pray Salah, that is not mentioned in Quran Kareem. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has explained to us how to do the Salat and what are the requirements and what are the things which are needed for Salah. Same thing for Zakah, giving the charity. Mentioned many times in Quran Kareem that the Zakah is an obligation on us, and we must give the Zakat. But the details of Zakat, of how to give it and whom to give it to and when to give it and how to give, these are not mentioned all in Quran Kareem, but rather Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam has mentioned these things in the hadith, and we learn how Zakat is supposed to be given. But about Dawah and the hikayat of Dawah, the stories of Anbiya alayhimus salam, all the stories of Anbiya alayhimus salam, they are stories of Dawah, of how Anbiya alayhimus salam, they call their people towards Allah Ta'ala, how they call their nations to Allah Ta'ala. With tafsil, Allah Rabbul Izzah mentions, with many details about, these are not just stories so we can tell our children, but rather these are lessons for us. He gave the example of Nuh alayhi salam, how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opens in such detail the story of Sayyidina Nuh alayhi salam, how he called his people in the day and the night, layla wa nahara. Dawah is not only for daytime or only for nighttime, but rather day and night dawah is. And how he gave dawah to his people, فَلَمْ يَزِدْ دُعَائِي إِلَّا فِرَارًا. And how his dawah, instead of the people accepting, they ran far away from him, and they went away from him. So in detail, Allah Rabbul Izzah mentioned the stories of dawah and stories of the Anbiya alayhimus salam, how they call the people towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this, and to learn anything, we need to be in the environment. If we just read Quran, but we do not do the work of dawah, then maybe we cannot really fully understand these things in the real sense. Because so much of dawah is in Quran. When a person stands up and does this work and practically does it, so many meanings of Quran can open up on that person. Because this book is the book of dawah. Like example, a person who lives all the way in the north, in Alaska somewhere, in the snow, in the igloos, he never saw a hot place, he never saw a desert. For him to understand what a desert is will be very hard for him unless he travels to these places. Similarly, in every subject, in every field, to understand that field, the person has to go into that field. A person in medicine and in learning how to be a doctor, he goes into that field, then he understands and learns it. In every subject is like this. So to learn dawah, when we go in the field, then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will open the realities of dawah on us. Dear brothers, similarly Allah Rabbul Izzah mentions another story of dawah, another episode of dawah about a woman, about a pregnant woman. So many women are pregnant in the world and have been pregnant, but Allah did not mention them in Quran Kareem. But this was a very special woman, and this woman was the wife of Imran, and she made a vow and an oath that when she was pregnant and the baby was in her womb, that Ya Allah, whatever I give the baby I give birth to, the son I will give birth to, I will make him farik and make him do the muharrara. I will make him in the effort of the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, not in the shughal of dunya, not preoccupied with dunya, but rather in the effort for the deen of Allah ta'ala. And for Masjid al-Aqsa, and he will call the people and he will make effort for deen. So this was her intention, and this was her vow, and this was her oath and her promise to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this jazba of hers, her enthusiasm and her feelings. And then when Allah Ta'ala gave her the child, when she delivered, she found out that this was not a boy, but rather Allah Ta'ala made the child a girl, female. وَلَيْسَ الذَّكَرُ كَالْأُنْثَى. And the boy, the male cannot be like female. They're different jinns, different. People say in non-Muslim that women and men are same. They're not the same. They're different. From Adam alayhi salam until Qiyamah, they'll always be different. From head to toe, they will be different. But through Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decided that this girl, Inni Sammaytuha Maryam, who was Maryam radiallahu anha, who eventually became the mother of Isa alayhi salam. That he was going, that her vow and her promise and her intention that her child would do the work of deen and the work of dawah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it fulfill that intention in a bigger way, in a better way. She had intention for one Masjid al-Aqsa. But now this woman, this baby, this Maryam, would grow up and she would be the mother of Isa alayhi salam, who would be such a great da'i and such a great Nabi of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions about dawah in Quran Kareem. How this woman was giving dawah and how she stood up for the work of dawah and deen, and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepted her and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala accepted her progeny as well. In the place where a person would think, how I can give dawah. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions his story in Quran Kareem, how Yusuf alayhi salam, when his two companions of the prison came to him and asked him questions about the dream, etc., he gave them dawah. And he told them, "Arbabu mutafarriqun." Is it possible that many gods and many deities can be better than one God, one Allah who's Qahar and who's all powerful? And he gave them dawah, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explains in detail how Yusuf alayhi salam gave in that place, in the jail, in the prison, in hardships and difficulties, he was giving dawah to his two companions. Similarly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Luqman alayhi salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in Quran Kareem. He was not a Nabi of Allah, according to most ulama kiram, but he was a very pious person, a Hakim and a very wise man. And he gave dawah to his son. Ya Bunayya, he explained to his son. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in details about how he is giving dawah to his son to stay away from shirk and to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So again and again in Quran Kareem, Allah Rabbul Izzah mentioning the different episodes and hikayat and narrations of the dawah of Anbiya alayhi salam. Similarly, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also mentions the story of a bird giving dawah. Ajib, not even a human being, not even a Nabi, but a bird giving dawah. The hudhud, at the time of Sulaiman alayhi salam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in Quran Kareem that he noticed that hudhud was missing. The hudhud was not in the majlis, was not in the gathering. And he said, what is this? I do not see hudhud. Where is he? Is he gone from somewhere? What happened? If he doesn't come back or if he doesn't give me a report, I will punish him, punish the hudhud. And the hudhud came and the bird came, although such not even a special bird, not as a very fancy bird or very beautiful bird or very expensive bird, a very normal bird, a small bird. And the bird came to Sulaiman alayhi salam and told Sayyidina Sulaiman alayhi salam about Qawm Saba and their queen, and that their qawm who used to do shirk of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he gave Sulaiman alayhi salam the news, and Sulaiman alayhi salam gave them dawah. And the story goes, as the episode goes in Quran Kareem, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala explains how Qawm Saba and all of Qawm Saba, they entered into Islam because of by means of this bird who was giving dawah. So how important it is and so great it is to call people towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that even a bird which gave dawah, a bird which had concern and made a figure for dawah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions that bird in Quran Kareem. Similarly, my dear brothers, even smaller than the hudhud, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the story of the ant. Smallest, very small creature, very small creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, very tiny. How that ant, he gave dawah, and how that ant called his other ants to be saved from being trampled by the army of Sulaiman alayhi salam unknowingly. So this ant, if ant dies, or 1,000 ants die, or even 1,000,000 ants die, you will not see in the headlines tomorrow, 1,000 ants died in the road yesterday and there was bloodshed. You will not hear about it. It will not be in the news. One person dies, yes, it will be in the news, because insan is insan. Ant is just a small creature. How many of them die all the time? Nobody knows, nobody cares. La ya'ba'u, it's not really, nobody cares. They're small creatures. But this ant which made fikr and concern for its own kind, other ants, to be saved from some difficulty and punishment or some calamity of this dunya only, not about akhirah. Ants do not have any hisab kitab in akhirah or in day of judgment, etc. So this ant was making fikr about other ants to be saved from some difficulty, calamity in this dunya. Allah Rabbul Izzah gave so much value to this ant. If somebody denies this story, because this is a part of Quran Kareem, he has done kufr. He's not Muslim anymore. Because to deny any part of Quran Kareem, even this story of the small ant, is part of Quran. This is kufr. This is not allowed. This is disbelief. So how important Allah Ta'ala and how much importance Allah is giving to this ant? Why? Because He's giving dawah. And this ant, such a small creature, nobody can hear the ant. Even if you were to take the ant in your hand and to put it in your ear, you will never hear the ant speak. You cannot hear or understand, even if you were to hear. Allah Rabbul Izzah made the voice of this ant be heard by Sulaiman al-Islam many miles away. Why? Because this ant was giving dawah and making fikr for its own kind. And not only did Allah Rabbul Izzah make the voice of this ant be heard by Sulaiman al-Islam miles away, Allah Rabbul Izzah made the voice of this ant heard until Qiyamah, yani through the Quran Kareem, through the mentioning in Quran Kareem. So how important it is, if an ant is making fikr for other ants to be saved from some difficulty of dunya, Allah is giving so much importance and ahmiyat. How much is that one human being, one insan, is making concern and fikr for other human beings, not only to save so that they be saved from some difficulty of dunya, but rather to be saved from the everlasting difficulties and calamities of akhirah. How much more importance and how much more ahmiyat and significance is that person who does the work of dawah. Allah Rabbul Izzah mentions the dog in Quran Kareem. And what was the dog doing? The dog was with the people, those young men of Ashab Kahf, who left their homes to preserve their iman. They left their homes to save their iman. Allah Rabbul Izzah mentioned the dog that was with them in the cave in the Quran Kareem. If a person were to call another person a dog, he'd be insulted. Why are you calling me like this? But if a person reads the word qalb in Quran in this ayah, وَقَلْبُهُمْ بَاسِطٌ ذِرَاعَيْهِ بِالْوَصِيدِ, Allah Rabbul Izzah will give him, for each letter Allah will give him 10 blessings at least. So this dog which was with the people, in the company of the people who went to preserve their iman, Allah Rabbul Izzah gave that dog so much honor, and to say the name of that dog, to say the dog name, the word dog in the Quran, it becomes a reward and ajr. How much more importance and how much more significance and how much more valuable is the person who stands up and does the work of dawah. And my dear brothers, even the staff, the stick, which has a connection with the da'i, with the work of dawah, even that has value in the eyes of Allah. In the story of Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, after leaving Shuaib alayhi salam and traveling, and he went to the mountain, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala introduced himself, Inni an Allah, I am Allah Rabbul Izzah, I am Allah. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala asked, وَمَا تِلْكَ بِيَمِينِكَ يَا Musa, oh Musa, what is in your right hand? So he said, this is asaya, this is my stick, this is my staff. I lean on it, I use it to hurt my animals, I use it for other many benefits. He counted and listed some benefits that he was gaining from this stick, from this staff. Allah Rabbul Izzah told him, فَعَلْقِهَا يَا Musa, throw it down. And he threw the stick down, and what happened to that stick that was giving some benefits? Now it became hayyatun tas'a. It became a large serpent going very fast. Small snakes, they go very fast, and big snakes, they go very slow. But this was a big snake going very fast. So he became very scared, Sayyidina Musa. What happened to my stick? What is this? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Khudha, take it. Wala takhaf, don't be afraid. Take your stick, grab it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is teaching the ilm that Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam learned with Shuaib alayhi salam for 10 or so years. Allah Rabbul Izzah is making that tatbiq of that ilm, that Allah is the doer, and Allah is the one who gives benefit, and Allah is the one who gives harm, and Allah can change benefit to harm and harm to benefit. Allah Rabbul Izzah is training Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam, who's the Nabi of his time. So he takes the stick, finally he grabs the stick, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala changes that stick, that snake back into a stick again. Now it's still a staff, but it's not the same staff anymore. Now this staff is a sabab of hidayat for so many people, for so many of the mankind. Rajul mu'minun min ali Fir'aun, the person who was hiding iman in the family of Fir'aun, he accepted iman later on. The wife of Fir'aun accepted iman later on. Saharatul Fir'aun, the magicians of Fir'aun that he brought to to have a contest with Sayyidina Musa alayhi salam. 4,000 or 7,000 in some riwayat come, more or less. So many people became Muslim and Hidayah because of this stick. It was just a stick, but now the stick has different value now, different significance now. So that stick which had a connection with the da'i and with the effort of dawah, how much value does that stick get? How much significance does that stick get? How much importance does that stick and staff get? So imagine the person who does the work of dawah. This is the work of dawah in so many places in the Quran Kareem. Mawla Zakaria Sahib mentions so many places, that so many ayat of Quran Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions Amr bil Ma'ruf and Nahy anil Munkar. How important it is that we stand up for the work of deen and make this work and make this effort, that we stand up for this effort, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions in Quran Kareem of the so many stories and so many hikayat. If a person were to try to do two salats at once, or for 1 hour, so let's say 10 salats in a day, you cannot do 10 salats, you can only do 5. Because only 5 are obligated on us. But through this work of dawah, as he mentioned the hadith of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, man da'a ila hudan, the one who calls towards guidance, the one who calls towards good, the one who calls towards good deeds, he gets the reward of all the people who are going to follow him until Yawm al-Qiyamah. Mafhum of the hadith. So if I can only do 5 salat a day, but if I prepare other 10 more people to do salat, 20 more people to do salat, 100 people through me are doing salat, all of the reward of their salat and all the other actions, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will also give me this ajr, also will give me this sawab. The previous Anbiya alayhi salam, they were giving dawah towards ibadah. They called their nations that they should do ibadah. The Nabi would come, would make effort, the Iman of the people would enter the lives of the people for whom Allah had decided, and the Iman would increase. When a Nabi would die and leave the dunya, effort of dawah would also die and leave, and the people again would fall into misguidance. But Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, even after his leaving this world, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam had prepared his ummah on dawah. Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam's effort and calling was not only for his call towards ibadah, dawah to ibadah and worship and slavery of Allah, but rather dawah towards dawah, that the ummah and the sahaba should stand on the work of dawah also, so that this silsila and this chain and this benefit can continue even after the demise of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam.